Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this one I'm explaining sort of why I spent so much money on self-education. This is courses, this is coaching, this is mentorships, this is books, this is everything included. My self-education in 2018, and I might talk about how much I want to spend in 2019 as well, but I'm not sure, so let's get into it. Let me just start off by saying, as many of you know, I'm not going to college, and not only am I not going to college, but I barely did high school. And not only did I barely do high school, but I've only been at a public school building like 7 times max. So, that just shows you where I'm at in terms of academic education. And I just put out another video, or at least I just recorded another video recently on, should you go to college or should you start a business? And I talk more in depth about that if you were interested. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is why I spent anywhere from like 8 to 10 grand on self-education in 2018 and why you should take your self-education that seriously as well. So I sort of go by the methodology and the principle that, academic education, public education will make you a living, and that's fine. But self-education with like a goal in mind, like this piece of information is going to help me do X. That kind of education makes you a fortune. And for me, I'm optimizing my intake for business, for profits, for my personal companies and my personal development and what I want to do with my life and myself. So if I look out into the future, like 50-year-old Trey, like I want him to own a butt ton of land. I want him to have an awesome family. I want him to be able to take his family and put them all in a compound of like 50 acres and have a bunch of different houses on that land. Like, I have goals. And so if I look out into the future and I say, how do I start doing, what would 50-year-old Trey who's doing that then be doing right now? And he would be spending a lot of money learning about specific tactics that help him make his businesses more profitable. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So let me explain to you some of the things that I invested in. So for example, I invested in a $2,000 program on Facebook marketing and converting strangers into customers, basically. Like how to use Facebook as a platform to take high-paying consulting clients from the ether and turn them into people that pay you a monthly recurring fee. And that's one of the things that I invested in. And another one was a coach who charged me like 1.5 grand to work with me for 2 months, and he just this was at the beginning of 2018, and he helped me establish some stuff back then, and these are all things that directly apply to my business. So ultimately, it's an investment. It's $10,000. That $10,000 is going to turn into hundreds of thousands of dollars if I put it to work. And the things that are in my head now because of that 10 grand plus the other 5 or 6 that I've spent kind of in total, which is probably 15, 16 grand on self-education, that is going to turn into revenue. That is going to turn into profit, because without that, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now. And a lot of people think, well, why don't you just go to college? If you can spend that much money, just get a loan and go to college. Well, the problem with college is, at that point, I'm going in debt. I'd rather I used a debit for all this. I didn't put any of this on credit. Like this was cash. I paid cash for all this stuff. And that's what I want to do. So that's the first reason. Second reason is, with college, it's 4 years and they're telling you what to learn. I just want to be working, stumble into a problem, and then find a way to fix that problem. And if in order to fix that problem I have to pay somebody a certain amount of money to obtain the information to fix that problem, then I'm going to do that. However, if the problem can be fixed with a cheap $2 book, I'm just gonna buy a book, and that's why I have a decent library building now. And one of my goals as well when I'm 50 is that I have a fat library. Like I have a room the size of like the average American household living room of just books, like books I've read that I've obtained and applied in my life. As well, I want to have like a study, and I want to just be a huge reader. And so that's why I spent so much money on self-education, is because, look, without that, you're going to be lost. You're not going to know how to fix certain problems. And frankly, you may not even know when problems are there because you just simply don't know enough to survey the land. And so some of the education was directly applicable, as in I had a problem maybe with Facebook, so I bought a small $200 program on like how to do a certain thing with Facebook or whatever. Or maybe some of the problems were more broad. Like the $1,500 coach that I purchased, he was like a mindset coach. He helped me sort of overcome some limiting beliefs. It's sort of like a therapist a little bit. I worked with him for like 2 months. And I've just got all kinds of different like coaches and programs and stuff like that lined up because it's either broad problem solving that I know is applicable or very specific things that are a bit cheaper but help me just overcome a very specific hurdle or like break through a specific wall in my business or in whatever else. So that's why I spend so much money, is not because it's just blind spending because I'm a spending freak or something. It's because it turns back into money. It's because if you do it right, that education turns back into money, and if you don't do it blindly like an idiot and you spend money on courses that actually help you, then it will turn back into money. And you know, that's a big part of why I run an education business myself. It's why I sell my own programs, is because when you sell a program like that, like, you are potentially changing a life for the better. Especially when you can niche down and find a very specific thing that you can help somebody with, then selling that program is impactful on a level that you wouldn't even believe. And like, I'm paid to impact people's lives. It's awesome. And so I want to invest in other people's programs as well. Not only does it help me with the specific solution, but as an educator myself, it helps me see how they structure their programs so that they can teach masses, you know, their tactics and their strategies. And so there's a lot of like positive return on investment for me when it comes to self-education, and those are just a few. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that, you know, resonates with you, and I hope you can see why I value self-education so much, because without it, you would hit walls constantly, just wall, 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 and eventually be overwhelming and you might give up. But filling your head with new information, it's almost like new momentum. It's almost like putting gas back into your car. It's like, okay, I have something to work off of now. I'm just gonna ride this wave until it runs out. So with the mindset coach and then with the Facebook consulting program, all these things, like, those all turned into momentum within my business that I could use and turn back into money. That's really what it feels like to invest in your self-education. It's just momentum. It's just new perspective is ultimately what it is. You know, it keeps you from being stagnant and keeps you from sort of, it's almost like, what's the example? The Dead Sea, right? It doesn't have an outflow. It only has inflows, and then the water just sits there, and it just kind of, you know, becomes all mucky and nasty. It's why it's called the Dead Sea. However, if it had an outflow like most other, you know, large lakes or seas do, inflow and an outflow, then the water would always be recycling and it would always be fresh. So with courses and programs, you don't just want to buy them and then do nothing with them. You want to make sure that I'm buying this with the intention of using it. Otherwise, you will become that proverbial Dead Sea with a bunch of information and nothing to show for it. I actually met recently with a digital marketer, and I won't say his name, but he's a local guy, and there's not many digital marketers in the Indiana area. But he's a local guy, and he knows a butt ton. Like, he's been in this industry for like 20 years. He knows everything and anyone about anyone. He's bought every program, and he's just super vested in the digital marketing space. But he's nothing to show for it because he's never actually had an outtake. He's never actually poured it into a project. It was just really sad. This guy's like 48, 49, and I'll just sit in front of him, and he's like telling me, educating me, helping me through problems in my business. But he probably only makes like $4 grand a month right now, you know, like, and he lives in a really cruddy home, and, you know, he's not super fulfilled, and he doesn't really talk very highly of his family, and he's got all these issues, and it's because he doesn't have an outflow. It's because he doesn't have a project to put that into. So with self-education, that's your inflow, and then putting it back into the market or back into your projects, that's the outflow. If you just have an outflow, however, then you're going to run out of water, right? That's where self-education comes in. As you flow out, you need flows in, and both, it's a two-way street. They're both equally important. So, yeah, bit of a ramble, but that's just how the videos tend to go these days, and I don't really care. People get value from them, so I just trust my head to tell you what I'm thinking. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like down below. Let me know that it was valuable to you. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're notified when I upload videos. I'm trying to shoot for daily uploads in February, and if I miss a day, you can beat me up. That's totally fine. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and shoot me a DM on Instagram if you'd like to connect one-on-one. If you want me as your coach, I have a link down below. I'll work with you one-on-one on your business, on whatever else I can help you out with. Primarily social media marketing agency stuff, but I've had people work with me for really anything that they believe I could help them with. So thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.